Hey y'all, I'm Kimberland, and this is the Frolicking Truth, a soft space for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal. Here, joy meets justice. We calm our Black ass nervous systems, we unmask, and we leave behind whatever that is trying to kill us. You're seen here, you're safe here, and you don't have to do this alone.
Hello there. I'm Kimberland. I don't know why I'm so nervous. It's interesting when you start a new thing, and though podcasting is not new to me, the space is new. Hi, welcome to the Frolicking Truth. Come in, find a comfortable spot, take a seat. I'm grateful to have you all here with me for episode 1 of the Frolicking Truth podcast for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal, where joy meets justice and nervous systems get free. So, I do want to give a little bit of background about how this started and how we got here. I'm not new to podcasting. I have had many podcasts and currently have many podcasts. It is something that I love to do. I love to exercise my voice and use my platform to affect change in different areas. And it is kind of a little bit of an addiction, maybe a little bit, but it's something that I love to do. So, anyway, I was watching Amanda Seales' show, Views from Amanda Land. And for context, today is May 7th of 2025. My feet are currently planted in Medellin, Colombia, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But just for context, Amanda Seales is a public figure, actress. She describes herself as an artistic individual, and she has had to go completely offline to create a different space. And as I was watching her show, I felt inspired because I wanted to create a space that is dedicated to joy, justice, and healing our nervous systems. So I took to ChatGPT to organize my thoughts, and here we are. The Frolicking Truth has been born. So this space is primarily for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal. That doesn't mean that you aren't welcome if you don't identify with any of those descriptors. It just means that when you come ready to listen, come ready to learn, and come ready to support. So I am crafting and curating this space, and I do have different segments. So with this being our first episode, I will explain what those different segments are as they come up. And as I continue to craft this space and create a space that is for us to feel ourselves, I ask for both your grace and support as I try some things out and put some on, maybe take some off, and do some pivots and whatever and what have yous. But as of today, for our first episode. So, our first segment is called Auntie Check In. Something I have realized is that I am an auntie. I have come to grips with that and my auntie-hood and just embracing that, and also embracing the wisdom that I have after being on this earth for 4 decades and some change. So, here the Auntie Check In. This is our weekly moment to take a moment to breathe, to take a moment to laugh a little, maybe cry a little, and just remember that we're not doing this alone. So, having said that, I do want to just take a moment to ground myself and center myself, and I invite you to do that with me. So, I'll take just a couple deep breaths here. One of the things that I consistently have to remind myself of is don't forget to breathe. There's a song that I love by an artist named Stormzy, and the name of the song is Don't Forget to Breathe. And he just says that like over and over again, just don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. And it is something that I have to remind myself of. And I think a lot of us have to remind ourselves of, because when we are in the thick of it and doing all the things and trying to be all the things to ourselves, to our families, to other people, we forget to breathe. And of course, we are breathing technically because we are sustaining life. But breathing with the intention of calming our nervous systems and grounding ourselves and allowing our brain people, if you will, to wake up and know that we are ready to start the day is a completely different type of breathing. So I've had to remind myself of that a lot lately. I have a lot of moving parts and logistics that are happening in my life right now. And sometimes I do get very overwhelmed. So this week, I am reclaiming my breath and honoring my breath and allowing myself to give myself an opportunity to breathe. One of the ways that I do that is by centering myself and limiting the types of communications that I participate in and the types of communications that I receive. So, No Talk Tuesdays are back. They never really went anywhere, but I really wasn't honoring them for real because boundaries and needing to honor my own boundaries. So you might be asking yourself, what are No Talk Tuesdays? So basically, this came into play, had to be back in 2017, 18, maybe. I just started feeling like everybody was asking me to be present for them. And it seemed to always happen on Tuesdays. I don't know what it is about Tuesdays. People get the week kicked off right on Monday, and then Tuesday comes and all hell breaks loose. Who knows? But I started limiting my communication on Tuesdays. So what that would look like when I was in the working world and I was working in schools and everything, I just wouldn't answer my phone on Tuesdays. If somebody was dying on Tuesday, I was like, I'm going to find out on Wednesday, or you need to schedule that on Monday. Like Tuesdays, I'm just not available. And it really helped me to reclaim my time and reclaim my own mind. At the time, I had no idea that I was neurodivergent. At the time, I had no idea that this is something that is necessary for me to be able to function. I just felt like it was something that I needed to do. And then over time, I started getting really, really lax about No Talk Tuesdays, and that has been happening lately. So I had to make a commitment to myself to put No Talk Tuesdays back into place and truly honor No Talk Tuesdays. I am not available on Tuesday for anybody but myself. And honoring what I've said that I want to do for my own self, I am so focused on that I can't really I don't even have space to worry about somebody else's stuff or what they are doing. And it gives me time to be able to center myself and calm my nervous system. I need that. We need that. And it's not feasible for everybody's life. Like if you have small children or children period or a partner that you live with, like No Talk Tuesday might not be a thing for you. But I encourage you to find some time just for yourself where you do not have to be available to anybody else. And they figure it out. The kids figure it out, your partner figures it out, like they figure it out because you have to do what is best for you. So y'all can let me know in the comments what you think about that and what that might look like for you to have some type of communication hiatus, if you will, so that you can give back into yourself. So the truth is, it's a lot that's going on right now. It is a lot that is going on right now. So if you are just finding me, let me just give you a little bit of background about the types of things that I do and the ways that I exist in the world. So I just mentioned a moment ago that I'm an educator. I've been an educator for almost 20 years now, which is wild. And I primarily taught when I was in the classroom. I taught science and 6th and 8th grades. So my classroom experience is primarily in middle school. I did that that for some time. And then after I did that, all of that work was in Tampa, Florida, in Hillsborough County Public Schools, which is now the seventh largest school district in the United States. So I did that work. I also mentored first and second year teachers as well as administrators and helping them to support first and second year teachers. So I did that for a while. I also did professional development for a really long time. So I worked with teachers K-12 on their teaching practices and ultimately became a specialist in school climate and culture. I held a couple positions after that. One was as a student success coach, which kind of operates like a cheerleader, if you will, on campus. So I had a caseload of students who had experienced failure in the past, and whether that was in regards to their attendance, their behavior, or their grades, or a combination of those, I helped those students to experience success again. So to teach them how to learn about their brains, to teach them how they best receive information, how to advocate for themselves, how to set goals and chunk out goals so that they were able to be more successful. So I did that for quite a while. So all in all, I spent 13 years in Hillsborough County Public Schools. And then I transitioned into school improvement, and I did school improvement work in Tampa as well as school improvement work in Pennsylvania. When I worked in Pennsylvania, I worked on behalf of the Department of Education and as a school improvement specialist, but as a school climate and culture specialist specifically. And while I was working in Pennsylvania, it was the most traumatic experience of my entire life. And Pennsylvania is the reason why I left the United States, because of the things that I discovered about education and school improvement and the way that we teach kids and the way that we teach kids how to read and the way that we don't teach kids how to think. I got background look into the systems and just how corrupt it is. Again, for timestamp's sake, today is May 7th, 2025. And currently, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And he is dismantling everything about education and putting it under the guise of there hasn't been improvement. And what I will say is that's actually very true. There hasn't been improvement. And there hasn't been improvement on purpose. There hasn't been improvement because then they can say that it's actually the people that are flawed, not the system. So it's interesting. I saw a statistic the other day and it was talking about the percentage of children who cannot read at a grade level, on grade level. And this particular graphic was about Illinois. And it was saying like in these particular schools, 0 children are reading at grade level. And I made a post and I was like, this isn't rare. This is very much what it has always been like. When I worked in Pennsylvania, they were talking about different school districts that had books from the 80s. Now, I want you to understand that I was working in Pennsylvania in 2020 and 2021. The 80s were 30 years prior to that. School textbooks should be updated every 5 to 6 years, right? And I'm not going to get on my textbook soapbox just this moment. I am in a minute though. But textbooks should be consistently updated because things are consistently happening. Research is continuously happening. We're supposed to be continuously improving what we're doing, right? So that was alarming. What do you mean textbooks from the 80s? Like in real life? How? Like actually being used? Like what is happening here, right? So it's that kind of stuff that I was uncovering, just the vast disparities in resources depending on the school district that you are a part of, you're zoned for. So when they say that education is not working, they're correct, but also it's by design. And it's important for us to understand that because right now I often feel like I don't even know who to compare myself to. I'll have to look like what historical figure, but I feel like I'm screaming into the abyss as I'm saying to parents like, hey, don't send your kids to these schools. Like, your kids are not okay in these schools. Granted, there are good teachers, right? And for instance, I taught my students how to think. Even when I was like, y'all might not learn this here science, but let me tell you what you are going to learn how to do by the time you get from out of here is think for yourself. Because school historically was designed to indoctrinate. School was created to teach people how to read the Bible, and school was created to indoctrinate indigenous people and to strip them of their culture and their language and their habits. So the idea of school in the United States was never because, oh, we need to make sure that our population is smart and that they're critical thinkers. School was created to generate a workforce, and it was created to indoctrinate and colonize and teach people how to read the Bible, which again is religious indoctrination. So when we think about it that way, and we understand the foundation of school, then we understand who was prevented from having high quality education. Those people often looked like me. And if you are listening to this and not looking at this, I'm Black. Okay. I am African American and indigenous. School was not created for us. School was not created for people like us. School was not created for our children. School was not created for us to be able to see ourselves. That is not why school was created. So though there are good teachers, the system, the foundation, the institution of education has always been rooted in white supremacy culture. And it's interesting because now I live in Colombia, and I am for the first time getting a global understanding of how different things impact each other, of how, especially right now, there's a shifting of world powers that is happening, and there are trade agreements and tariffs and like all kinds of things are happening in order to try to broker power. And it's making me very aware of how the things that are happening in the United States have global impact, and how things that happen in the globe have had global impact on the US. It's also making me very aware of the type of propaganda that we have been subjected to our entire lives in the US, and the fact that they lied about everything. I will pause here and say I grew up very patriotic. I grew up like, I'm proud to be an American, or at least I know I'm free. Like, that used to be one of my favorite songs, and it would bring tears to my eyes. I would be so quote unquote proud to be an American. And over the course of life, I was trained to be that person. I was trained to not ask questions, to just receive what is being told to you. Do what I said, not what I do. And it was a combination of in school as well as in my home. And what that did is it caused me to internalize a lot of things and do my best to just follow directions, because I saw that's how I was staying safe. But I always had questions. And once I got into education as a certified educator, I really started having questions about the ways that we teach children. And I just decided that I was going to teach my kids different. And when I say my kids, I'm talking about every student that I ever taught. Those are my kids. And I will call them my kids because my success was tied to their success, and their success was tied to my success. And I took and still take a lot of pride in the educational experiences that I provided for my students. Every teacher isn't like that. And especially in this year, 2025, it is supremely important for us to do all that we can to protect our children from the harm that is happening in schools. I just was exposed to a podcast yesterday, and it's called Sold the Story. And it's talking about how we teach children how to read, and how this company sold this story of they were teaching kids how to read when really they were teaching kids how to guess and how to use context clues to try to figure out what things are saying, as opposed to actually reading words. So not sounding out words or phonics, but just, what do you think that word could be? And then after so much time, they recognize these different words, but they're not fluent readers. Reading comprehension is not there because they're not reading for understanding. They're just reading a collection of words. And this company sold this story across the United States and had billions of dollars in contracts, as they were supposedly the premier company for teaching children how to read. And that didn't happen. Even though science said this is not how people learn, this is not how kids learn, this is not how someone learns, they still continue to do that. And that is just one story. Because when I said I'm not going to get on my textbook soapbox, but I am a little bit, I'm here. Textbooks are written by the people who control the narratives. We were told, let me speak for myself, because I don't know what your educational experience is like. You're going to have to tell me in the comments, because we was learning different things at different schools. That's what I want you to know. So as for Kimberland Jackson, I was taught in a very segmented and siloed way. Things didn't necessarily connect, especially when we're talking about history, social studies. I hated it historically, hated everything about social studies and history, because my teachers would stand at a map and with a yardstick and they would just point at countries. And my social studies understanding really became about regurgitating information, rote information. This is where these things are on the map, and this is the language, this is this, that, okay, we're done with that. It was not taught with a critical understanding and a critical eye. I was taught not to ask questions. I was taught to receive information and spit the information back out. I was not taught to critically think. And I don't know how I truly developed those skills. I'm grateful the 2 social studies, well, it was 3. I had 3 social studies classes that I actually loved. One was in 5th grade with Mr. Wegner, and Mr. Wegner had a way, again, of connecting things. I remember him, talking about how I think it was World War I that we were studying, and he would talk about how this situation happened here that caused that to happen there, that caused that. Like, he did a good job of connecting the dots, and it was very obvious that he loved what he did. He was very passionate about his work, and he just knew stuff. Like, Mr. Wegner was just really smart. So I had that class. And then in 11th grade, I had AP American History. And in 12th grade, I had AP Civics. And those classes were taught by the same teacher, Miss Bayham. And what I can say about Miss Bayham is that was the first time that I really understood what was happening in these different historical events that we were studying. What happened in the Boston Tea Party? Why was that such a big deal? What does taxation without representation mean? Like, we came into the classroom and we were given money at the door, and she told us we had to pay to have our desk. We had to pay for our desk. We had to pay for school supplies. Like, if we needed the handout, if we needed a pencil and eraser, like, we had to pay for all of that. And we was like, hey, when did this start, ma'am? Like, what is happening here? But she used situational circumstances and made them very relevant. So we were able to better understand what was happening. And I, as someone who historically hated social studies, was able to better understand. School is not really taught like that. And when we just send our kids to school and expect that the school is doing what the school said that they were going to do, we are leaving our kids in great harm. So I urge you, if you are a parent, a caretaker, someone who has a young person who is in school that you care about, please get involved. Please ask about what they are learning, especially now. Like in Florida, they're teaching that slavery was beneficial it was mutually beneficial, because the slaves, they're not calling them slaves, they're calling them unpaid workers. The unpaid workers got food and shelter, so it was mutually beneficial. This is what they're teaching in school. And I can remember things being very much whitewashed in my learning of history. I didn't grow up in a family where like you had to sit down and watch Roots and all of that, but I do remember being very interested in it because I was curious about this someone else's experience within this time frame. So the civil rights movement, the Civil War, anything that had to do with Black people became a special interest of mine because they just weren't talking about this stuff in schools. So I said all that to say that the truth is I need us to be so involved in what is happening in education. I'm actually working on a homeschool curriculum because we are going to need it. We are going to need places for our children to learn about our history, to learn that their history did not start as slavery, to learn that we are brilliant and everything in the entire world has been built on the backs of our brilliance. That is important. So I want to put that out there because it's happening right now. It's like every day I see another executive order about education or I see something else has been defunded. The thing is with this regime is that they take pieces of the truth and then they extrapolate way, way, way out from there. So the piece of the truth is that the US education system is quote unquote broken and not working. That is very true. Though it's not broken and it is working the way that it was designed. But they leave that part out. So the truth is that education in the US is not effective. What they leave out is that by design. And what they are leaving out is that, and now they will be indoctrinating your children very, very clearly in order to raise another generation of children who do not ask questions, who take things at face value. Is scary. You know, our kids are impressionable. Our kids are our future. Our kids, they're the future. They are writing history. So to have our precious brains in the hands of people who intend to cause harm is pretty scary. So I wanted to put that out there because that's the truth of what is going on and the truth of what is happening in the United States. Now, having said that, thank you for attending that lesson. Our next segment or the next thing that I ask from you is for you to have a soul work assignment. So our soul work assignment is something that we are doing towards something, right? A purposeful reflection. It connects you to your own healing. It can be all sorts of things and it will be all sorts of things. But for this week, your soul work assignment is for you to ask yourself, what is your role in this fight, in the resistance? What does that look like? And what does that sound like for you? I did a live back in 2020 where I talked about, it was during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I talked about how everybody can't be on the front lines of the protests. For example, I am somebody, I cannot be on the front lines because I don't know when to stop. I don't know how to just accept injustice and be all right with it. I don't know when to shut up. Like I would be in great danger if I was at an actual physical protest because I get worked up and I get so mad. And it's like righteous anger, but also it's not safe for me. So my role in the resistance is to be able to help people understand that there are different roles, that you can find a way to be able to actively support the resistance. One of the ways that I do that is not just by helping people identify their role, but it's also by focusing on self-care and joy and calming our nervous systems. Because the tactic is that if I can keep you so off balance and I can keep your nervous system dysregulated and I can keep you in survival mode, you're not able to think. You're not able to. As someone who is very passionate about brain research, one of the things that I know is that when our brains are operating in survival mode, the only question that we're asking is, am I safe? And if we cannot answer that question affirmatively to move on to the next question of saying, am I connected? We just stay in that zone of, am I safe? And even if we are able to move from am I safe and then we ask ourselves, am I connected? If there's so much divisiveness that is happening and people that we once thought were safe people are not safe people, then no, we're not connected. But the only way that we can ask ourselves, what can I learn, or how can I strategize, or how can I be creative, is for us to be able to be safe and connected. So the tactic is to keep us unsafe and keep us disconnected. That way, we'll never have the biological capability to learn anything new or to be able to strategize. So I said all that to say, I am curious about two things. What is your role in the resistance? And what are you doing to stabilize your nervous system to create a sense of safety? Because it is absolutely necessary for not just our survival, because I would like to think that we eventually are going to be able to move out of a place of survival, but for us to be able to care for ourselves and care for each other and be in community. We really need to know how to stabilize ourselves so that we can strategize and so that we can protect ourselves. So again, your soul work assignment for this week are those two questions. What is your role in the resistance? And what are you doing to help to calm and stabilize your nervous system? Breathing is something that we talked about earlier, and that's a free thing that you're able to use to be able to stabilize yourself. Okay. So, yeah. All right. So, now that we got that out of the way, all right, it is now time for us to have a little talk about what it might look like for you to pack your bags. Okay. So, I told y'all I live in Medellin, Colombia. And I have been outside of the US. I left the US on October 9th of 2021. So it has been almost 4 years, which is wild. This time has gone by really quickly, but also has felt like forever all at the same time. But I left the US, y'all, because I needed to save my life. I realized that my nervous system was in shambles and my mental health was in shambles. And there was no way that I was going to be able to continue doing the work that I do. So remember, I am a school improvement specialist, and I specialize in school climate and culture. And school climate and culture is all of the stuff that's illegal right now. So talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and belonging, and justice, and social emotional learning, and trauma-informed practices, restorative practices, all of the things that help us to stabilize ourselves, to calm our nervous systems, to manage our own emotions, to respect that other people have emotions and lived experiences, to build positive relationships, responsible decision making. All of that stuff is the stuff that I specialize in, and that's all the stuff that the people have now made illegal. So if I wanted to continue doing that work, I knew that I could not do that work and also be living in an environment that was consistently attacking me for doing that work. So I decided to leave. And there are many people that are often asking me about leaving and what that looks like and what that sounds like. And what I will say is that it is much easier than you may think that it is, especially when you are not tied to things and places. And I am someone, I've never been tied to things and places, especially after Hurricane Katrina and losing like all my childhood memories and our childhood home and like all of that. It's like this stuff could be gone at any minute. So it's easier for me than some people to just be like, okay, bye. Right. So that's one thing. But the hardest thing is really making that decision and understanding where you want to go and what type of environment is going to give you the ability to be able to create that type of life for yourself. So I wrote a dream journal. It's called Professional Frolicker Dream Journal. So I am a professional frolicker. Okay. So frolic means to play and move about cheerfully, excitedly, or energetically, embracing joy. I love that. So I'm a professional frolicker. That is what I talk about when I am talking to people. When I am about is what I try to keep at the forefront of my mind is really making sure that I am creating time for joy and creating time for play and creating time to be cheerful and excited about life. right? So I wrote this journal, and it's called the Professional Frolicker Dream Journal. And you are able to get a copy of the Professional Frolicker Dream Journal by attending one of my Finding Peace Abroad information sessions. So if you go to findingpeaceabroad.com, you are able to sign up for one of the information sessions where I will be sharing different tips and things for how you can leave the US or your country of choice, if you will, and create a life that actually brings you joy at a soul level. So you can do that, or you can book time with me on my calendar. So again, if you go to findingpeaceabroad.com, you can scroll down. There's time for you to jump on my calendar, and I can help you to develop a personalized strategy for you to launch your exit. I've helped people leave little as 90 days, but it is possible to leave in as little as 30 days, depending on where you at and what you got going on. Again, it's not as hard as we think it is. But anyway, back to the journal. So in the Professional Frolic Dream Journal, I ask you a series of questions that really helps you to center down on the things that you need in order to create this life that is going to bring you joy at a soul level. So the first question that I want to deal with today is, what brings genuine joy to your spirit? What brings genuine joy to your spirit? So I want you to imagine a life where you can just be without the fear of being misunderstood, without having to worry about how somebody might perceive you. What does that feel like? What does that sound like? What does that look like? How can you use your five senses to describe that joy? So, being the teacher that I am, I want to give you an example for what that looks like, sounds like, and feels like for me. So, again, our question is, what brings you genuine joy? Okay. So what I will say, what brings me genuine joy, a few things. And I want to shout out Tyra Gardner, who is a mental health specialist that I worked with. And she was the first person that really got me thinking about the environmental factors of what brings me joy. And it actually happened around the time that I was coming to Medellin. So I visited Medellin for the first time, I believe it was like April 19th of 2021. And I was telling her, like, I'm going on this trip. I'm stressed out. You know, she knew everything that was happening at work. And she was like, when you get there, I want you to pay attention to what in the environment makes you feel genuine joy. And for me, it's nature and plants and being able to hear like a water babbling brook or something, or like running water, or the rain, for instance, here in Medellin it's misty. It's like if you were to mist a plant, it's that type of rain, like it's really light. It also brings me joy to have peace and enjoy just having the sounds of nature be the thing, and that not being disrupted by construction and motorcycles and, you know, loud cars and all of that. Like, I appreciate being able to hear the birds sing and to hear the wind blowing. Like, that brings me genuine joy. I get genuine joy from doing things like blowing bubbles. Bubbles make me happy. So, so happy. They make me feel like a child. I remember in New Orleans, we would go to the Children's Museum and there was a bubble display. And at one of the things, you can stand inside and then you can put yourself inside of a bubble. Favorite thing ever. Loved it so much. So bubbles bring me joy, right? So your responses can be anything of that. Good smells like eucalyptus brings me joy, and the smell of mint and certain incense brings me joy. And it feels in my spirit like calm and peace. It's not too cold, it's not too hot, it's comfortable, and my eyes get to take in the beauty of the nature. So yeah, so that is my question for you this week. What brings genuine joy to your spirit? Because that's going to help you decide where you are wanting to go, right? So for instance, I don't like to be hot. I don't. So Playa del Carmen, when I lived there, no thank you. I don't like it. Also, I don't like the beach. I don't like sand. So that was what there was in Playa del Carmen. That wasn't a place that really brought me joy. I found more joy in Mexico City than I did in Playa del Carmen because the parks were gorgeous in Mexico City and I got to see all of the nature and they were just so beautifully curated. That brings me joy, right? This answer is going to be different for everybody. This is a very personal thing for you to figure out. And if you don't know, my invitation is for you to take some time to figure that out. All right. So, yeah. So that's that. Now, I want to take a quick giggle break before we get out of here because I told you earlier that I have realized that I'm an auntie. Okay. And I'm all right with it. I realize I'm an auntie. It's a thing, like all of that. But this is a thing. I'm curious about what y'all be calling the young people. Cause I call them young people, like the 20 somethings and such. That's what I be calling them. But what y'all be calling them? Because I don't know what to call them. But also, listen, I am so proud of these babies and these young people that's out here. Let me start off with Blue Ivy and Rumi Carter. Okay. Because I have cried tears watching. Y'all remember when on the Renaissance tour, when Blue Ivy came out there and she was so nervous. She was how old the baby was? 11? She was 11 years old and out there in front of thousands of people. And let me tell you something. I don't know if y'all been to a Beyonce concert. Also, I am a Beyonce fan. Okay. I would consider myself a part of the Beehive in that I have a great respect for Beyonce and the things that she does, but also I'm not like crazy Beehive putting bees in chats and things. But I have so much respect for Beyonce and what she has built and how hard she has worked to create this opportunity for her little girls to be able to be on stage with her. I have been at a Beyonce concert. I've been to a couple, but the last one that I went to was the Formation tour. I remember there was so much energy in that stadium that I thought I was going to pass out. And I was in like the 100 seats. You know, I could not imagine if Beyonce was my mama and I'm standing on stage and thousands and thousands and thousands of people are here to see us. My God. I would burst into bubbles. Seeing Blue Eye, that girl said she went to lab and went to work. You hear me? She said, what y'all not finna do is be sitting up here talking about me. But that's all right. I'm finna get on. She is 13 years old out there doing it. I'm a dancer. I grew up as a dancer. I don't know how nervous I would be to be on a stage with thousands and thousands and thousands of people watching me. I was a grown woman dancing and was nervous, and it was just a gym full. Like, oh my God. And this girl is getting up there doing it. And Rumi, hey, girl. Rumi is 7. That baby say this her concert now. Okay? When she come out there for that protective performance, sis say this is my concert now. She comes out and she just so happy to be by her mama. And then she be waving. Oh, I love it so much. It's the cutest thing ever. And I've just been in so many tears every time. I can't watch enough videos. I'm an auntie. I'm an auntie. And I've been on this thing with like these young people. I don't know what else to call them. The 20 somethings. So like Marseille Martin. So I'm gonna give y'all a list of them, okay? So Marseille Martin is 20 years old. Angel Reese at 23. Holly Bailey at 25. Chloe Bailey at 26, Coco Jones at 27. And then this kind of goes into Lil Sis, so Meg the Stallion and Kiki Palmer. So Meg the Stallion is 30 and Kiki Palmer is 31. But when I tell you, I be watching them with so much pride. These young women are so intelligent and articulate, and they know who they are. They are self-aware. So I shouldn't even say the articulate, because it's not really even the articulation, it's the awareness. It's the self-awareness. It's them knowing who they are, speaking up for who they are, making a difference, carving out their own lanes, and doing that shit with grace and style. It is my favorite thing. It is my absolute favorite thing to watch. Especially like I've been watching a lot of Marseille Martin things lately because that girl, she's a trailblazer. Like I forget who I think she was on Scott Evans' podcast the other day. And hearing her talk about how she introduced Joe Biden at the Black Excellence brunch, like it's so beautiful and so admirable to watch. And I want people to support them more, especially for people like that people don't necessarily agree with, like Chloe Bailey and Holly Bailey. Like they get so much criticism about the ways that they choose to live their lives. And in spite of that, they're doing such a beautiful job of supporting each other and speaking up and speaking out for who they are. I'm just proud. When I tell you, they make me so proud. I just be in here just a cheesing like, now y'all do it. Y'all is doing the damn thing. Okay. And also every time I do it, I be like, girl, you a auntie for real. You a auntie for real. And that's all right. I'm all right with that. Yeah. So anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this on up. And let me give you a special invitation to join me in my Patreon inner circle. So along with this, I have been revamping my Patreon and really just shifting everything that I do off of social media, like public social medias, and more behind a safer space, which is in Patreon. So for only $5 a month, you are able to support this mission. You are able to support me. You are able to be in partnership with me because I also am giving of things to you, right? So within the Patreon, you have the ability to get free downloads of resources, and you can submit questions to me. You can have actual conversation and chat with me on a deeper level and get like different vlogs you have access to, as well as first knowings about many things. A lot of the things that happen outwardly on YouTube are things that happened about a year ago. So in my Patreon is where you get the right now things that are happening and the exclusive invitations to be a part of the things that are happening right now, and the ability to invest on the ground level for the things that I'm working on. So I mentioned that I'm working on the homeschool curriculum and building this community. The healing circle is something else that I've been working on for Black women who have experienced burnout, who are neurodivergent, who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal. Okay. So I do those healing circles every other Saturday. And if you go to tinyurl.com/Black Women Healing Circle, then you will be able to get that information. Let me see if I have that here yep, tinyurl.com/Black Women Healing Circle. Then you'll be able to be a part of that healing circle. And again, that is something that I am doing kind of behind the scenes. It is a space that I'm crafting out specifically for us and specifically for people who need this type of support. But anyway, you get all of that exclusive information by being a part of my Patreon. That's how you know what everything is happening. So if you go to patreon.com/minding my black ass business, you are able to find me there. And Minding My Black Ass Business on all platforms. So that's on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube. If you search Minding My Black Ass Business, you go to mindmybblackassbusiness.com. There I am. Okay. Also, though, you can go to kimberlandjackson.com to learn more about me, to learn more about Discover Your Destiny, to access my blogs. That is where I first started finding my voice and where I first started talking about the different things that have happened in my life and where I've really logged that information. So you're able to check that out there, and at Kimberland J on Instagram. And if you are feeling generous and you're like, no, I don't really want to join the Patreon, but I would like to give you a little something, a little love offering or whatever, you can find me on Cash App at $Kimberland Jackson, or on Venmo at Kimberland-Jackson. And Kimberland is KIMBERLAND. BERLAND. All right. So having said that, I do want to wrap us up and leave you with a thought. And I will do this every episode. And again, these episodes will come out once a week. You can find behind the scenes and unedited episodes on the Patreon. But so these will come out every week. You'll have the ability to be able to connect with me that way. This is the thought that I want to leave us with for this week. May your nervous system find rest this week. May you speak truth with gentleness. May you remember you are not a problem to fix. You are a soul to honor.
Thank you for listening to The Frolicking Truth, where joy meets justice and our nervous systems get free. Please be sure to like, rate, and comment. Subscribe to the YouTube page, Minding My Black Ass Business, and follow me on all social platforms. Until next time.